Hello, Gene Schwimmer here, and welcome to me. Today I'm going to do the third part of the series I've been doing about Detroit. Part one was about what it was like growing up in Detroit, my hometown, in the late 50s, early 60s, and then the second part that I did about a week ago was about the physical deterioration of the city, the abandoned neighborhoods, the abandoned business district, and the damage that has caused. And today we're going to, as we move forward now, we're getting into more and more hard to talk about subjects. One of the reasons for that, I guess I should put a disclaimer in here, because I would not be surprised if I am accused of being a racist at some point. I don't know how you talk about the problems of Detroit without mentioning race, for the simple fact that I talked about what it was like growing up in Detroit, how orderly and nice and pleasant this city was. And today it's a cesspool. Maybe it's getting better, as I hasten to say, as I've said in the past. I left in 1977. Most of what I know about Detroit now is what I read and what I hear, and I'm willing to be found wrong on some things, but I've been quoting articles and showing photos that are recent. One article I mentioned was July 10th. That's not long ago. So now I'm going to go into education. And, I'm just going to put up here, the Department of Education has a National Center for Educational Statistics. Yeah, I'm just going to put the statistics up there. So we'll start first of all. This is 2015. The most recent year I could find. I think the new numbers will come out in November, and that will be for 2016. But that's only a year and a half ago anyhow, so I don't know how much things could have changed since then. So let's take a look here, put up the first numbers. This is reading the percentage of students in Detroit. These are 8th grade students. The percentage that was at or above the proficiency level, 7%. That means 93% are below proficiency at the 8th grade level. That's reading. Let's look at math. The percentage of 8th graders that are at or above proficiency level, 4%, just 4%. That's the quality of education in Detroit as of 2015. I can't imagine that it could have improved much since then. Let's look at a couple articles here, and these will maybe further illustrate the extent of the problem. In 2018, 35 more Michigan schools could face closure. This is in addition to 38 that are already scheduled for closure, and this is scheduled for 2018. So now we are definitely not talking about past history. This is now. The 38 were identified because they ranked in the bottom 5% academically for 3 straight years, from 2014 to 2016. So we have all these schools closing. The next thing you might wonder is, what is the reaction of the parents of these students that go to these schools that are doing, by any standard, terribly? How do they feel about it? We have here this headline: Detroit parents angry, heartbroken over possible school closures. To me, that looks like they're angry about the schools closing, not about the quality of the education that the kids are getting in the schools. So here's a quote. "I think it's horrible," the mother of 3 said. This is a mother of 3 kids who is sad about J.E. Clark Preparatory Academy, one of the schools that's closing. And here's what she says: "I think it's horrible," the mother of 3 said. "That school does a lot for the kids in the community. They give out coats, shoes, food baskets. The teachers really help the kids. I don't think there's another school like Clark." Well, let's look at the ratings of Clark. There's a website, School Digger, that has the ratings for all the schools around the country. So put it up right here. This school, J.E. Clark Preparatory Academy, it ranks 1,523rd out of 1,533 Michigan elementary schools. And this woman is saying that there's not another school like this one. Well, yeah, we should hope not. But notice what she said. She said that the school gives out shoes and clothing, but nothing about how well the school teaches the kids, which is the purpose of the school. Another mother here. How are we giving kids a fighting chance to access literacy and a quality education if we continue to close neighborhood schools they can walk to? Somehow being able to walk to the school will improve your education. So this is Osborne Evergreen Academy of Design and Alternative Energy. So how is this Osborne Evergreen Academy of Design and Alternative Energy doing? Well, I'll put the rating up here. This is a high school now. Out of 792 Michigan high schools, this school, the Osborne Evergreen Academy of Design and Alternative Energy, about the closing of which this woman is so distraught, it ranks 789th out of 792. Boy, what kind of education are these people getting? But you have here, I guess, an educator saying, we have a renewed focus on implementing our academic plan, maintaining our improved financial standing, and developing innovative models to reach our goal of excellence in education for all of our students. Well, you could have fooled me, but I'm going to get back to this subject in a minute. I'll set this aside here. Boy, these quotes just get more distressing as you go along. More than 100 schools in the Detroit system have closed since 2005, with enrollment declining as students left for charter schools or other public districts. Well, no wonder they're leaving, and this is what the public school teachers, the teacher unions, are fighting. They're fighting to keep these students from trying an alternative, which is interesting. It's kind of ironic because Congress just passed overwhelmingly, I think it was unanimously, a law allowing terminally ill patients to try new cures, untested experimental cures that have passed only the first phase of the FDA's testing regimen. And the logic is obvious. What the government is saying is that you have these terminally ill patients and the existing treatments aren't working for them. Why not let them try something new? What have they got to lose? And that's the same logic that would apply, it would seem, to the public schools. If you have public schools doing so badly, why would you fight the ability of parents to try something else for their children? If you have a school that is 1,530 something out of 1,538, what have they got to lose? If you have this Osborne Evergreen Academy of Design and Alternative Energy that ranks 789th out of 792 Michigan high schools, why would you not let the parents of these children try a charter school? What have they got to lose? And why would the parents fight it? Why would the unions? Well, the unions, because they care more about the teachers and their salaries and keeping them employed than they care about the students. And actually, what stops these public school teachers from working for a charter school? Well, maybe it would pay less, or maybe what I think is the main problem, they would be hired on merit. And these teachers, most of them, if they're just look at that ranking, they probably couldn't get a job in the charter school. So that's why they're fighting it. And now this takes us to one of the schools being closed because of the poor quality of the education that you get at that school is Schultz Elementary Middle School. And the reason I bring that up, well, here's a beautiful photo of the Schultz Elementary School. And the reason I bring that up is because, as you may have guessed, that's my elementary school. That's the school that I was educated in. Now let's look at the rating today. Out of 1,533 Michigan elementary schools, it ranks 1,515. That's about as close as you can get to the bottom without actually being on the bottom. And, well, I'm the guinea pig. You can look at me, and if you want to think I'm illiterate, you can think whatever you want, but I was educated in that school. In fact, I am, except for 3 years in a suburban school, junior high school, I was educated entirely in the Detroit school system. this Schultz Elementary School, then 3 years in the suburbs, and then Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan. I am entirely a product of the Detroit educational system, not the one that exists today, but the one that existed in the late 1950s and the early 1960s. And these government officials and unionized teachers who are promising to improve education in Detroit, all I can say is, why do you have to? Why is it not the way it was when I was going to these schools, when I was in elementary school? It was fine. And now we get to the part where I'm probably going to be accused of being a racist, not for talking about race or assigning blame or identifying factors, just mentioning the fact that you can see on this chart, which I'm putting up again. Schultz Elementary Middle School, 98.3% African American, 1.0% Hispanic, and 0.4% American Indian. That's what the makeup of that school was, at least in 2015. I don't know how much it could have changed since then, but when I was going to Schultz School in the late 50s and the early 60s, it was for almost that entire time 100% white. And you can make up your own reasons of whether it's a coincidence or not that the educational quality is so poor in that school now compared to when I was a child. But you cannot talk about Detroit and not talk about race. And I want to be very clear about this because, as I said, I live in Harlem. It's liberalism. Most black people are liberals. That's the problem. I'll talk about it later. I'm going to sign off for now. Bye.
You got a plan, darling?
I always got plan. They don't ever work, but I always got one.